Should be good. I want to welcome everybody tonight. We're waiting on Scott Tedder and John Nye to join us, but we are really honored to have a couple special guests for us tonight, Scott Gavoni and Steve Goodhart. Welcome, guys.
Thanks, Coach. Good to see you. Goody, good to see you. It's been a while. Yep.
I am going to bring up, Scott, a little thing here on the screen, and we're going to start with you tonight. And let's see if I can bring this up here and share it. You guys,
we did talk about this, Coach.
Do you have Scott's stuff up here? Do you see that?
Yeah, I think I still have the hat, but it doesn't fit anymore.
Okay. Well, you look about the same, Scott. But
little wider.
Let me read through a little bit of this here now. So, Scott, right. You were class '93, and you had one of the finest seasons probably in Ohio Wesleyan history. Right up there with Drew Caravella and Mark Sienkiewicz. You led all Division III players in doubles. You had 24. You had runs batted in. You had 73 your senior year. And you were named first team All-American, All-Region, All-North Coast Athletic Conference. And as a junior, you were second team All-Region and all NCAC pick as an outfielder. You finished your career with a .363 average, which was 8th all-time. You had 49 doubles, 2nd all-time, and a .607 slugging percentage, which is 4th all-time, and 139 RBIs, 4th all-time. So, Scott?
Yes.
Your career didn't necessarily start that way, though, did it? Tell us about your freshman year.
What are you saying, that I was a bum?
No. I'm just saying
as a freshman,
you didn't walk right in as an All-American, did you?
No, I actually I got recruited out of high school as a kicker. There was an alumni that had a kid going to my high school, and he put me in touch with Bruce Tall, remember the football coach, and literally recruited me as a kicker. And I honestly had no idea, what that would entail, kicking in college. But I knew it was a Division III school, and I wanted to play both football and baseball. So I said, heck yeah. I got out of New England and showed up at Ohio Wesleyan. I played football my freshman year. Like we were talking about earlier, I kicked off most of the time. And I used to, in Coach Hallway, if you remember, hated kickers. And which meant that I not only had to kick off, but I also turned into the wedge breaker. So I had to kick off and then sprint down the field and throw my 170-pound body in front of this wedge coming at us. So that didn't go very well. And then go into the spring playing baseball. Quite frankly, I think I was more interested in my fraternity life at the time. I don't think I took it terribly seriously, but I do remember I played JV, I'm pretty sure. And I do remember at the end of that season, you had all the returning players in a room, Coach, and you critiqued every single one of us openly. It was like an open outcry. You said somebody's name, and you said very few positive things. It was all like, what do you have to get better at? And when you came to me, you said, Scott Gavoni, slow. And the idea was, hey, Gavoni, you're pretty damn slow, and you're not going to go anywhere until you get a little quicker. And unfortunately, I don't think I really listened much to that because I have always been pretty flat-footed. But anyway, so that's that. That was my freshman year. It was very unremarkable.
Yeah, I have to say, Scott, that not everyone's going to be fast, but you had an uncanny ability, and you developed this, I think, over your 4 years, and maybe you had it when you came in. But I remember Coach Meyer and I had a conversation one night, and he said, he goes, the thing about Scott is, especially when we're talking about outfield play, he's never in the wrong spot. You were always in the right spot. So what you didn't have in quickness, you had in understanding the game, being able to read hitters. Was that natural? Or was that something you developed?
I think that's just growing up playing the game. And I definitely had to compensate for the lack of speed. I had to be quick. I had to have a good jump off the ball. I barely ever played infield growing up. I was always in the outfield or pitching. So yeah, I had to have that. There's no way I was going to be able to track down a long fly ball unless I got a good jump on it.
Good.
So,
Well, in your sophomore year, well, before we get started with that, I want to welcome Scott Tedder and John Nye to the group. They were able to make it. And,
Sorry,
the
we're late in
legends.
traffic.
yeah, our legends here. So, Scott, when you got into your sophomore year, you started playing quite a bit. And
Yep.
as you got in your junior year. In your junior year, you started taking on a little bit of a leadership role. And then as a senior, you were really a team leader. Why don't you talk about that progression of things as you kind of moved up, in your career at Ohio Wesleyan baseball?
So after my freshman year, I came home to Boston and played in a summer league called the Boston Park League, which said, they say they're the oldest amateur baseball league. And I really matured as a baseball player during that summer. I got a lot of confidence, and I realized during that summer that I could play in college. And it turns out I got injured towards the end of that year, forcing me to quit football. So I was, the silver lining there is that now I don't have to. Now I can play fall baseball, and quite frankly, fall baseball for me growing up was foreign. I had no idea that people actually played baseball in the fall until I went to Ohio Wesleyan, and I saw that from the football field my freshman year, and I missed it. I'm like, wow, those guys are all playing baseball, and it's September and October. I couldn't believe it, but I got to do that my sophomore year, and then just having that, we had a great bunch of guys, and the confidence that I got from playing with all these great players. Really helped propel me, into that, get my own self-confidence up to the point where I felt like I could contribute. So that was important.
Talk about that senior year, because it was actually absolutely phenomenal, and especially let's talk about those last 10 games or so of the year.
Well, senior year was obviously, it was a great time. There were 4 seniors. It was me, Jimmy Hanna, Greg Justice, and Gordon, and it was just a pretty tight group, right? And we had guys like Goody and Robo and Runzer and Odell and McClish and Obi. Remember, Obi was a freshman when I was a senior, and it was just a great group. Timmy Hole, and I do remember during I think the league tournament, Justice ran into the wall at Allegheny and he broke his hand. And he's our best hitter, number 3 hitter, and by far the best hitter. I remember you sitting us down in the dugout at Lydic, and you're like, all right, somebody's got to step up. I don't know who it's going to be, but somebody's got to step up. And I took that to heart because I felt like, that was really a calling out to me that I had to step up, and, I was lucky enough to do that. Now, you mentioned the whole RBI thing and, 70 what odd RBIs. And I'm sure everyone on this call can appreciate the fact that you don't drive yourself in most of the time. So it's guys like Goody, who's on this call. I think he led off or batted second. I honestly can't remember, but I know Justice batted third. I can't tell you how many times I must have knocked him in. And, like I said, he's the guy on second base when I get up with, 1 or 2 out, whatever, and basic single, and he's always going to score. I do want to say something about the doubles. So I led the league in doubles my senior year, and my best man at my wedding got wind of this, and he literally during the best man speech, he said I led the league in turning triples into doubles. So I'm like, yeah, you're probably right, because I literally would hit a gap and then put the flaps down going around first just so I could watch people like Goody score.
Well, you did it very well. So I'm going to try and share the screen here one more time real quick and introduce your cohort here, Scott.
Nice.
Mr. Goodhart was class of 95. He was a 2-time All-American in baseball. He was the first Ohio Wesleyan player to be named first team All-Region 4 times and the first to repeat as North Coast Athletic Conference Player of the Year. His freshman year, batting .395, ranked 9th in the conference, 2 home runs, 33 RBIs. Receiving second-team All-NCAC and first-team All-Region. As a sophomore, he hit .397, ranked 7th in the conference, 2 home runs, 26 RBIs, first-team All-NCAC and All-Region pick. His junior year, he won a conference batting title with a 449 average, 1 home run, 40 RBIs. He was named the Conference Player of the Year, first team All-Region, second team All-American. As a senior, he hit 404, 9 home runs, 53 RBIs, and his 413 career batting average ranked third on the all-time OU list. During his 4 years that he was at Ohio Wesleyan, our teams were 138 and 40, which is a 775 winning percentage. And I will say it was playing one of the toughest schedules in the country because from, I believe it was 1990 to 2004, we played the second best schedule in all Division III and won 2 conference championships and 2 regional runner-ups. So, Steve, welcome to the show here. And if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about Scott.
Oh,
About Givo?
was this planned?
Yes.
Was this planned?
No, not at all. I'm gonna let you both talk about each other here, but
Yeah.
he was one of the older players when you were one of the younger guys. Tell us about him.
He was. Givo, so he was senior when I was a junior, sophomore.
Yeah,
So
2
he
years
was
ahead.
junior. And I came right in and played second base, and Scott was at first for the majority of it. Taught me a lot about the game, being one of the older guys, and then had the opportunity to be in the same fraternity as Scott too. So we hung out 24/7. He would give me rides down to the field. We would go back and play what was it, Sega hockey?
Sega 93 hockey, yep.
So Givo taught me how to play hockey on video games, and especially being from Boston. But it was just great playing beside Givo, and the bond that we formed. After my sophomore year, we lost, I think, the regional finals to Anderson.
Yep.
Second game.
Yep.
And knowing that was the last time I was going to play beside Givoni, I was talking to my parents, and I got emotional, and they said, don't worry about it. It's just a game. And I was like, I'm not upset about the game. I'm upset that this is the last game I'm playing beside Givo.
Thanks, Goody. I'll be honest with you. I cried after that.
I did too.
It was I felt a little soft, but I did. It was a very emotional time. But I got to tell you, as you playing second base, you played second base all 3 years that we played together.
Yeah.
Or both years that we played together. And any first baseman out there will know, if you have a second baseman who is fast, it makes you so much more comfortable as playing first base. Because any pop up behind you, the second baseman's going to get a fast second baseman's going to get there. And you bailed me out so many times, Goody. I can't tell you how many times you caught balls in foul territory behind me. I wasn't that quick. So, but yeah, you hooked me up.
I'm sure you picked a few bad throws for me too. So.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach, I got a question.
Sure.
You're reading those stats, and you said his freshman year he was second team all league and first team all region. So you're saying Penn Reedy didn't vote for him for first team all league?
Well, I don't know who didn't vote for him, but you could take your guesses there, Scott. I don't know.
But
I'll tell you what.
I said Reedy.
Yeah, that tells you the admiration that Steve had from other coaches in the region, because we played everybody, and they all knew what kind of a great player he was. And between Steve, Scotty, and we had shortstop Jamie Robinson. I mean, we led the nation in double plays. How many years in a row?
That'd be a couple.
I know junior or senior year.
Yeah, and I think your sophomore year, I think we finished second.
Yeah.
We averaged well over, like 1.4, something like that, double plays per game. And that's, obviously a pitcher's best friend. And we had, great third base play. And we were really an outstanding defensive ball club. And Scott, I remember a lot of balls that you picked at first base. But you guys want to share a little bit about your experiences at Ohio Wesleyan, Scott? And we'll start with Scott and then go to Steve. Just what it was like to go there, as a student and be a part of that university, and what kind of return on investment do you feel like you've gotten from your experience and investment in education there?
Well, I think the amount of growth that you go through when you are in that 18 to 22-year-old range, is amazing. And then to be able to do that in the environment in Delaware was really valuable. It was a nurturing environment. It's a small school, so you really got to know your classmates. Like Goody mentioned, we were in a fraternity, and a lot of people were in fraternities. At least when we were, I think my fraternity, Goody, I think our fraternity's off,
Yeah,
got
we're
kicked
gone.
out, right? All right, we'll keep that down. I mean, just the amount of growth, and the environment was so nurturing that it was really good to be a part of it. And that's really one of the things about going to a smaller school. You go to a bigger school, you're just a number. But I do want to say something about the actual baseball too, because when I playing high school baseball, it was like a hobby. You go to these practices that we had. I know that a lot of you guys probably played more competitive high school baseball, but the practices were literally like a quick, short 10-minute infield outfield, and then you spent the next hour and a half shagging fly balls, and maybe you get up for 8 or 10 swings. So the practices were in high school were vastly different, and I was not used to. As soon as I got to Ohio Wesleyan, it was amazing. The stations that we had, the situational infield outfield drills that we would do it was so foreign to me, but I loved it and I soaked it all up.
Yeah, I totally agree. My first experience with Ohio Wesleyan was, I don't know if you remember Kurt Powell. Remember
Oh, yeah.
that name?
Yeah.
So I went to high school with his younger brother, and I'm not sure what year he was there, 86, maybe 87.
Yeah, I think it was around that time, yes.
So we went up to a baseball camp with his brother and a bunch of my friends that were on the baseball team, and watched you guys take practice. And I remember, I think it was Bob Morgan. Was he the coach at Indiana?
Yes, he was.
So I remember he spoke to the crowd, and him speaking to the team and everybody. And I thought, wow, this is legit baseball right here. And later, my senior year, we were playing American Legion ball, and Chris Odell, I think he had already committed to go to Ohio Wesleyan. And I was between Ohio Wesleyan and Ohio Dominican. I had a couple friends going there as well, and came up there on a visit with him and walked around while Ham-Will was being built, actually, and with Coach, and decided that, just fell in love with the campus, loved it, and met a few of the guys. I don't even remember who it was, but talk about that whole family experience, and that was it. And
Coach, I want to chime in real quick.
I'm lucky, or I was lucky enough to graduate in accounting and then go on to actually use my degree for probably 10 years, and then moved on somewhere else in the same company. But also met my wife at college. So still married, 21 years. So I love her.
Congratulations. John?
Good.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I wanted to just chime in real quick. If you've been watching these for the last few weeks,
Yep.
I think when Mr. Tedder arrived is when the program kind of started to move forward a little bit. And then my freshman class, we had like 18 guys come in, and probably 9 of us contributed right away. And then I was fortunate enough to be around you guys.
Or
that
me,
your
right?
senior
Just
year,
me.
I think?
Yeah, you were a senior when I was a freshman, John.
Yeah, and then I
Yep.
came back and coached.
You came back and coached when I was
Goody a little bit.
Yep.
And then the thing that I find really cool is seeing over that 10 years or so that I was somewhat involved as a player, a coach, or just a fan of the program, was seeing how we had good baseball players, but you guys were the athletes started to come in who were good baseball players as well. And then Goody, after you left, after you and Robo, I mean, that was like watching a D1 middle infield. And then you go to the Loudenslager group, the Caravella group, how that just kept continuing on and on and on and on. And that was really fun to watch. And Scotty Cavani, I remember you must have been a heck of a hockey player growing up. So I remember you acting like a goalie at first base as a freshman. With
Blocking the
your
ball. I had
six,
to make,
six
I had to make
saves
up for
and
the,
stuff like that.
yeah,
So
I had
I
to
don't know
make
if
up
that
for
was one of
the,
our stations or not, but
oh yeah, I love it. But I honestly, John, you were a legend in my eyes as a senior. It was, you know, I really looked up to you guys. You know, Jim Miller. I can't remember Donnie Hammer. I
yeah.
can't remember all the names, but boy, what a great group that wasn't. But Tedder was a legend that I had never met, and he was only the guy that I saw in these things. You know, these media guides. And we'd go through this and be like, oh my God, who's this Tedder guy? And it was just nuts. And I know, Scott, you played after, and that was really, it's great to see that.
Well, I appreciate that. And going back to what John said, yeah, it really started with Coach Ingles really starting to step up the recruiting, especially in the Columbus area. Him coming from Ohio State, obviously, knowing the Ohio talent, knowing all the Ohio American Legion, Summer League baseball teams. And when I went on my visit, you know, he tried to sell me and Coach, you know, you said, but we're coming off an 8-24 season. And I'm like, all right, that's good, Coach. I appreciate that. But then I seen what was going on, the guys he was bringing in. And of course I played basketball, and that was another reason I went to Ohio Wesleyan. But you could just see the talent level from our freshman year all the way up to our senior year with transfers and just the recruiting and things that were happening. And it was very exciting to like what you said, Scott, just to, I hate to use the word dynasty, but you could start to see it build my
Yes.
freshman year. And then obviously you guys continued it after that, and Hoot, you know, continued, was it 5 or 6 years after that? Oh, my bad. Dude.
It's going to be like 26 years by the time this whole thing's done. So.
Well, he
That's
is
awesome.
he is the only 5-time All-Conference
Yeah.
player in NCAC history. So let's
Which is
remember.
amazing.
Yeah.
And that record will never be broken. I could see things turning, and especially, you know, with Fody helping him recruit, and Coach Myers came in, and you could really see things turning around. And like what Steve said, you know, Ohio Dominican was a great school, great baseball school. And then, you know, you chose Ohio Wesleyan over Ohio Dominican was, you know, really key probably for Coach Ingles, and who went through his recruiting process. And Scott, I'd like to hear your recruiting process. I don't know if you guys went over this earlier, but just the reason that you chose Ohio Wesleyan, and we can go back to Steve also, just the recruiting process that you guys went through and made that decision to choose Ohio Wesleyan, like all of us did. And like I say every week, it's the best 4 years of my life.
That's great. I mean, so my situation's a little different. I touched on it earlier. I'm from Massachusetts. That's where I live now. That's where I grew up. I was recruited by an alum whose kid went to the same school, and you know, it was a Division III program. And I said, I want to, you know, I don't think I ever talked to Coach Ingles before showing up, because I was recruited as a football player, as a kicker, which actually doesn't count as a football player in the eyes of some of the coaches at the time. So that was it. It was a Division III school. I wanted to get out of New England just because I knew that I would eventually move back here and live here. So I wanted to go see another part of the country, and it seemed like a great fit, you know? So, yeah. What was, I think, good. You already talked about that or no? No, whatever.
Yeah, I did a little bit. Like I said, I wasn't highly recruited at all out of high school. I was still 5'10", 5'11", and 150 pounds maybe. I don't know if you remember Jason Payton out of Zanesville. We played him, and there was a Red Scout there. And, you know, our coach tried to tell him about me, but, you know, nothing ever. He just kind of looked over me to him. So I didn't get a whole lot of looks coming out of college or coming out of high school. And I think I could have had the opportunity possibly. We went over and talked to Bob Todd at Ohio State because we knew a player that was there. I had a cousin that went to Indiana State. He got me a workout in front of their coach, but nothing ever came of it. So, you know, we were at the American Legion my American Legion team was actually pretty good. We ended up being national runner-up that year. And like I said, my good friend Chris Odell was coming to Ohio Wesleyan. So I was like, you know what? Let's just keep this going and see what happens.
You know, the interesting story about you guys' American Legion run, you had National Player of the Year as shortstop on that team, right?
Yes.
Ryan Beatty.
Ryan Beatty.
And you were shortstop, correct?
I was.
In high school?
I was. So I switched over to play second.
All right. And then you came to Ohio Wesleyan, and Jamie Robinson came in with you. And you were, I mean, just the most natural second baseman, I think, of any second baseman we ever had. And you fit right in. What was that adjustment like, Steve? I mean, going from here, you're a high school shortstop. Now you get into a great Legion team. You're playing at national championship level, and you're playing second base. How hard was that to learn?
It took a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. You know, at Heath, we didn't have great teams. We had good athletes, but we didn't have good baseball players. So I played shortstop there starting, I think, my sophomore year, and played throughout. But I never had the strongest arm. So switching over and letting him play shortstop in the summer leagues wasn't really that big of an issue. So that gave me a chance to see the field from a different angle, get a little more well-rounded. So the transition coming to Ohio Wesleyan wasn't too bad at all. I just knew Greg Justice had been there and played second base and was an All-American. I thought, well, shoot, I'm not going to see the field at all. So, but he ended up moving back to center field, and I moved in.
Okay. So Scott, when you came in to Ohio Wesleyan, you talked about football. Talk about the two-sport experience and how you would talk to kids today about doing two sports.
Well, I love the fact that I played football freshman year. Any sport in the fall, when you're going to an environment that is completely foreign to you, and quite frankly, I was not a very independent person in high school, so I was a little out of my comfort zone, but going straight to two-a-days for football. And funnily enough, I got picked up at the airport by an Ohio Wesleyan van, and the other person in the another football player, a guy named Jesse Stills. Remember him?
Jesse's father was in Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Steven Stills, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, because we show up 2 or 3 weeks early before college, right? And all you're doing is playing a sport. You're playing football, and you're really bonding with a group of athletes, which was invaluable. I loved the fact that that's how I started my career. Even if I didn't play that much as a football player, and I quit after my freshman year, just getting in there and getting that comfort level and a circle of friends immediately, even before the rest of the student body moved in, was very important. I am a big proponent of college athletics just for the relationships that you create. It is obviously, it's good to be playing, but they're really lasting relationships that go well beyond graduation. So I mean, I wish I spent more time with people like Goody, but it just Big Daddy George Powell, who I do talk to quite a bit, especially I think he played. Yeah. Do we have time for his story? No.
Yeah, I spoke to George today, actually.
Yeah. So yeah,
Speaking of
I'm
George, real quick. Sorry, Scott. Speaking of George, this is how I got the idea. Otterbein was doing this call for their alumni baseball, and I watched like the first 3 weeks, and that's when I got a hold of Hoot and Coach Ingalls. I was like, man, we got to do that, because listen to George and those guys just go through stories like we've been doing the last 3 or 4 weeks was amazing. And just the camaraderie that, the Westerville school, I won't say it, Westerville school has. And then I mentioned it to John and Roger, and that's what really got us started. But George is a great guy, and that's how this got started, to be honest with you.
Love it. Yeah, that's awesome.
So George probably taught you how to play Stratomatic baseball, I'm guessing, Scott, because.
Yeah, well, I actually played that when I was little, for sure. Played a lot of that.
Yeah, so did George.
He probably still plays. Let's be honest with ourselves here.
Yeah. Scott, I got to ask you one question, because I know you got to get off and run. All right. You've got some things you got to go do here. But when
I gotta go play
none of
hockey.
you guys, obviously, none of you guys were scholarship players in Division One. You guys all had to kind of help pay your way through school and stuff. Scott, tell us about how you worked, what you did in the summer, because I'm always fascinated when you tell that story about your house painting and the types of homes that you were painting and how you did it. Because I think the first time you told me how you were painting homes, especially the 3-story ones, I think about had a heart attack.
Honestly, I'm trying to forget it. I'm trying to forget it all. And I'm 49 years old, and going up on ladders is not really a cool thing to do anymore. But I think Jody definitely remembers my car. It was a 1981 Toyota Corolla wagon, brown. We nicknamed it the Turd. It was nicknamed the Turd, and that is the car that I had through college. And can you imagine this little hatchback with a 32-foot ladder on top of it, driving down a highway? It's insane thinking back that we used to do that. But yeah, I don't know what story I told you before, Coach, but yeah, painting all the different shenanigans that you would do as a painter to make yourself more efficient. Putting a 32-foot ladder fully extended onto a bench so you can get to the peak of the house. Anyway, that's how I spent my summers. But I loved working outdoors all day, and then playing in the summer league. You go, you're playing 4 nights a week, and you're going right from work. You're exhausted after working all day, and then you go play baseball. It's you're really loose and all that. So I always thought that contributed to my success over the summer.
Yeah, and I think the fact that you played hockey, I think helped you as a hitter, because switch hitter, right? You hit from both sides, and I think the fact that the way you played hockey developed great wrist, and every guy that we ever had come through the program who had played hockey was a great hitter for us.
Really?
I don't know what the correlation. Maybe we should have had a hockey program going in the winter or something. I don't know.
There was a club team.
Yeah, they've got a pond on campus now down there by the new pool, so they could, when it freezes over, they can go down and play maybe. So.
Yeah.
Hey, we
Coach
need
put
we
for
need
wrestling and the marching band. That's why we don't have a hockey team.
we need a Coach Meyer story before these before.
Yeah.
Scott
All right. Yeah, and I do have to go. I mean, Coach Meyer, I thank you, John, because I when somebody brought his name up earlier, I'm like, oh my God. So he has this thing of instead of saying the word what, he would say schwat. It was unbelievable. So we had a great time with it, and I still to this day I say schwat all the time, and my kids even say schwat. So instead of what, you say schwat. But he was an absolute legend he was as that old bench coach. In fact, my dad was in a similar role at Babson College, which is Coach Ingalls. I think you guys played Babson a few years ago. Is that true?
We did.
Okay,
Yes.
so that was because yeah. So similar role. So I think there are a lot of correlations between my dad and Coach Meyer, but he was awesome. Just sitting there, you could pick his brain forever. Certain situations, I just loved it. But yeah, that Schwat story is really the one that sticks out.
The thing I remember about Coach Meyer, on road trips, we were in the vans, and we'd get about a half hour to 20 minutes to a half hour away from where we're going, Worcester, Allegheny, whatever. And we've been riding the whole time, sleeping in the van with the heat on. He would say, all right, turn the heat off, roll down the windows. You had to get used to the weather outside.
Yes, exactly.
So we freeze
remember that. Yeah.
right before we got to the game, and we got out, and it wasn't anything.
So the other story, I can't remember, I think it was fall ball. It was brutally cold outside, and it was just one of those days, Goody, where the windows were down and Googs was driving the van, and for whatever reason, maybe we had to pass a tractor or whatever. We were way onto the shoulder, and we hit a mailbox with the mirror. And like Googs was like, oh, he's really shaken up by it. And after about 10 seconds, Coach Meyer's like, well, did you want me to get their mail?
Oh my.
So, yeah,
Well,
Coach Meyer.
Well, Scott.
Coach, I have a comment real quick.
Yeah.
You fell into Scott Gavani and Mark Sinkowitz and didn't even know they were on campus because they were
No,
playing
no, no.
football.
No, John. You
They
gotta
were
understand.
two All-Americans.
John, I called Mark once.
Oh,
I didn't call
okay.
Scott, okay? But I was coaching football at the time too, so they were not my recruits in football. And
Yep.
they weren't my recruits in baseball because, as Scott will tell you, it's impossible, Scott, to find all the great ones, right? I mean, not
Yeah,
everybody
right.
knows everyone. And all those Division I schools missed you as a basketball player, but you can't know them all. But I will take credit for what they did after they got here.
Okay.
Okay. And
You do that.
not that I did anything. I just stayed out of their way. In Scott's case, he had the natural instincts to do it, but he had the drive. It was unbelievable. And same thing with Mark. Mark had an unbelievable talent. And John, you may not remember this. You may not remember this, but when he was a freshman, you were pitching in the cage.
He's the only guy I ever threw out in the cage.
Yes. Well, you came out of the cage and you told me that, Coach, I don't know who that guy is, but you better go get a dozen of them.
Yeah.
Boy, who you threw at Sink?
Yeah. I didn't
Oh, I
know
love
who he
it.
was.
And he's up there like he
He's
looks
up
like
there
a
ripping
hitting lasers back at the L screen. You guys, I didn't care how good you guys were. You never hit well in the cage and the dim lighting from 56 feet.
right.
And he was absolutely, I was getting scared. So I threw at him. I figured I didn't know him. I
That is
figured I
awesome.
had enough guys to have my back and not his at that point. But
Yeah,
I just turned out to be such a humble, nice guy.
Great player.
So
Yep.
it was a lot of
Exactly that.
He's the only player we had who left school as a junior to go play pro baseball.
yeah.
But he got a great deal out of it. So for him, I mean, it was a great opportunity. So, well,
I
Scott,
went to see him play when he was at Elmira.
yes,
Yeah, he was on third base and he hit a foul ball to me. I'm sitting behind home plate and they didn't, the ball actually came all the way through to me and it was right at me and I dropped it. And I could not believe I dropped a easy foul ball and I looked down at third base and Sink's sitting there just shaking his head. It was really funny, but yeah.
well, that's
Well,
awesome.
thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. Are you guys going to continue?
Yes, we'll be continuing.
Okay.
We're going to talk to Steve here a little bit. But Scott, thanks for joining us, and we'll let you get on your way here, okay? But it was really good to see you and catch up.
Great. Thank you, everyone. See you guys.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Scott.
Good job.
All right, Steve, I want to share another screen here if you don't mind.
Depends on what it is.
Well, hang in there. a
Right.
second. All right. So, Steve, after you left Ohio Wesleyan, you got signed by a professional organization, I believe it was the Reds,
I did.
and you played a couple years. In fact, you played in Billings, which is out in the middle of God's country.
Will you bring my cell phone? I think it's in the bedroom.
And then you went to Charleston, West Virginia. I
Complete
remember
opposite.
Joe and I went down to see you, and the night we saw you, we picked probably the best night ever because I think you and your shortstop turned 6 double plays that night, which set a Sally League record.
Oh, really? I don't
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah, you guys. In fact, I looked it up. The record is still there. You guys still hold it.
Really?
6 double plays in a game. So you had a great career, obviously, at Ohio Wesleyan, and now you got a chance to play professional baseball with
Yep.
the Reds. Tell us a little bit about your experience at Ohio Wesleyan, Steve, and then tell us about how that prepared you to kind of get a chance at pro ball.
Well, my experience at Ohio Wesleyan, like you said, we played the toughest stretch of schedule, or second toughest we talked about earlier, or whatever it was, in that 10-year, 12-year span. So that's obviously going to prepare you to play at the next level. But my junior year was my best statistical wise year that I had. I didn't talk to any scouts, didn't see any scouts. You may have, I don't know. My senior year, same thing. I didn't talk to anybody. So I thought, well, after my junior year, if I didn't talk to anybody, there's not going to be a chance to even, get drafted. And lo and behold, get a phone call and saying, hey, this is so-and-so with the Cincinnati Reds. We're thinking about taking you. If we take you want to play for us? Absolutely. I don't even know why you called. So, but, while I was at Ohio Wesleyan, going to play summer ball. We played Ohio State. I forget what year, my sophomore year, and I hit home run to tie it in the ninth, and we went on to lose extra innings. But one of their coaches was coaching a summer league in New York, a wooden bat league. So I went up to play for him and got there, and we're playing with people like from University of Alabama, Notre Dame, all these D1 schools, and then they announce you from Ohio Wesleyan, and people were like, where's that? But after a few games, you realize you do belong, and so that was kind of the same mentality going into the first season in Billings. You get there and there's Texas A&M and Texas, and here you are at a D3 school, so you got to prove yourself all over again. Scott, I'm sure you're well aware of it.
Yes, sir.
And then you also start thinking, people like Gavoni, it's like I played with a lot of people in college that were better than the people I played with in the minors. And you think, why did I get drafted and they did not? But those kind of things got me ready to play, and then had a pretty good year. My first year in Billings, like you said, it was a beautiful park. We averaged like 3,000 people a night, so it was great to play for, and couldn't ask for anything better. Had a baseball card made of me after that year, so loved it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think then you end up down in Charleston, West Virginia, right?
Yeah, so I was excited to get to play a little closer to home, but when on the opposite ends of the spectrum as far as field-wise go and attendance. So when it was probably one of the worst fields I played at, and one of the least attended seasons. But my family got to watch me play. My girlfriend, my wife now, got to come down and watch me play. But met great guys just like in college, and still talk to them today just like I do the Ohio Wesleyan guys. So we just got together. You talked a few weeks ago about Mike Bird passing away. A few of us got together and went up and played golf. Me and Cy and Randy Runzer and Brent Weaver. So it was great to see those guys, and this call, this thing we do every week. I watch it every week. It's great to see some of the people before me, like Jim Soma was on last week. Like Gibo says, you only read about these guys in the media guide, and you see how good they were, but then you get to hear their stories, and it's just awesome.
Steve, I think one of my favorite stories about you happened after you got done playing ball. And I don't know if you remember, but you and Shauna and kids came into the office one day.
Yep.
Stopped up to Ohio Wesleyan to visit. While you were in the office, a couple of the current players came in, and they kind of sat in the corner and stuff, and you guys left, and they looked at me and they said, "Coach, what positions he play?" I said, "Who's that?" And they go, "Well, that's one of our new freshmen, isn't it?" Because I think it was right at the start of school.
Yeah, it was.
I said, "I wish. I wish." But you had that young look, even after you'd gotten out, even today. I mean, you have that young look, but the guys were convinced that you were an incoming freshman that was reporting the campus for the first day. And I think that, it was so much fun to watch you and Jamie Robinson and Randy Runzer and Gibo and all those guys play during that time, because defensively, I mean, that's why you got drafted. Your defensive ability was major league level. And that's what the Reds told me. The only thing that they had was, how will you hit with a wooden bat? But defensively, they told me you were ready to go to the big leagues right now. And you showed it to your time in the minors. And Scott, same thing with you is, you all have the ability. But my question for you two is, you guys played pro ball and you played with some guys that had a shot and maybe got up. What did you see was the difference in those guys versus some of the other guys who didn't make it?
I'll let you answer that first, Steve.
Well, one thing I always remember, and it's 100% true. Our hitting coach for the Reds was Jim Hickman. He was the guy, played for the Cubs. Ace it up the middle. Pete Rose comes around in the All-Star game, runs over Ray Fosse, breaks his shoulder, ends his career. So that's his claim to fame, he says. He made the All-Star team, so he's a pretty good guy. But his said, here he is teaching us in single A. And he says, I'll tell you what, the only difference between you guys here and major leaguers right now is the amount of time it takes you to adjust. He says they can adjust, they go 0 for 3, they make an adjustment. Now all of a sudden they're back 2 for 3, 2 for 5, whatever. Where at the lower levels, you're going to struggle and get into those, 3 for 30 slumps and not make that adjustment. The guys that I saw move on, I played with Jason LaRue, and he ended up having a pretty good career in the majors. He's in the cage every day, working, making adjustments. So I think that's the biggest thing that I learned to try to do. Obviously, it didn't work too well for me, but just the ability to adjust and the quickness that you can do that.
I agree with that, making the adjustments, definitely from rookie ball all the way to AA, AAA, and those guys in the big leagues are so consistent. But Steve might agree with this too. A lot of it is politics, what round you were drafted. And I mentioned it last week. A third round guy is not going to get the same shot as a 21st round. And I think Steve said went in the 27th round. You can tell they pay more attention to those guys because obviously they got more money invested in them, which I understand. I didn't understand at the time, but now that you face the real world, it's a political world. And like I said last week, when you're a lower round pick, you have to produce every year. If you don't, they don't have very much money in it. They got somebody else to replace you. So I think that's what the difference is in college and minor league baseball. It's all about making adjustments and producing. If you don't produce, being a lower round pick, they got somebody else to replace you, third or fourth round pick. But back to what Steve said, there was guys that I played with that should have got drafted, but never did. There were a lot better players than what I played with in the minor leagues, probably in rookie ball and A ball. Now in AA and AAA, those guys are legit. There's no doubt about that. But going back to share the story about Sink, it was funny. I was in big league camp, and I'm playing left field, and Coach will remember this. We're playing the Red Sox, so I'm in left field, and I hear Tedder. I was like, what? It's Sinkowitz in the bullpen. He was bullpen catching in the big league camp. So it was pretty cool, Ohio Wesleyan guy in the big league camp, in left field, and Sinkowitz in the bullpen catching. And we were just talking the whole time, man. I lost my focus because we were talking about Coach Ingalls and everything, and about John Nice 5-year all NCAC. They'll never be broken. I'm just kidding. But that's I think that's where we talked about earlier, where the program went from my freshman year to Steve getting drafted, Oberholzer getting drafted, me getting drafted, and then seeing it to fruition is me and Sinkowitz in big league camp, playing against each other. But I know I went off sidetrack a little bit, but the minor league deal is, and Steve could probably say, it's 24/7 baseball. If you don't love baseball, then you don't belong. Spring training, you get up at 8 in the morning, and you struggle back to get to the hotel at 5, 6 o'clock at night, and then you do it over and over again, 7 days a week until the games start, and then you might get a game off, a day off once every 2 weeks. But what's funny is I'll share a Cincinnati Reds story. We were in Chattanooga and playing the Reds, and Ron Oster was the manager. So he was kind of like, the 75, 76. I'm showing my age, but those were kind of like my idol guys, Johnny Bench and all those guys. So I found out Oster was the manager. So I went to my manager, Terry Francona, as you know, who's the manager. of the Indians, and I was like, Coach, man, do you mind if I take the lineup card out this game? And Oster was standing there, and I was like talking to him. I was like, he goes, what are you doing out here? I was like, Ron, you don't understand. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. You know, watched you grow up. I watched you play in the World Series and things like that. He goes, oh man, you're from Ohio? And then we just started talking. The umpires were like, dude, we got to get this game going, you know, things like that. But that's some of the memories that you cherish playing minor league baseball. But yeah, like Steve said, it's a great feeling to really let your family see you play and go on from there.
Scott, Ron Oster spoke at the Ohio Baseball Coaches Clinic one year when I was actually coaching down at Ohio State. And he was talking on double play. And as he came in, he's talking about, you know, catch the ball. He goes, hey, one of the coaches asked him, he said, you know, how do you pivot? What are you doing to run back? You know, you don't have to touch the bag. Just get close. As long as you're in the vicinity. And you just see it, you know, hundreds of high school coaches going, oh, crap. But that's how they were. You know, that's how pro ball was. Just get close. You're close. Hey, they'll give it to you. And Steve, you probably didn't get away with that when you were playing, though, did you?
A little bit sometimes.
A little bit?
It was before the instant replay.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, you've been on this call enough to know that we're trying to use this kind of as a launching pad to help the program as well. And I know if Tyler was on here, he'd probably say, you know, if you know of any area kids around, you know, their UC or you know, you're probably still involved with coaches. You know, let's reload the program because we've had so many great memories from it. Tyler's a great guy. He's doing a good job. I just think they need a few difference makers like we had, and then the ball starts rolling. And I also think, like Tyler mentioned us in a text last week too, after we were done, is money helps. So if anybody can, you know, donate to Timo Wu, you can designate where you want your money to go. So that's just for everybody who's watching the call. Just we'll probably mention that every single week. Just help the program in any way you can, and we'll probably use this as a launching pad too. At some point, to all get together at either Tyler's golf outing or maybe a game in the spring, and maybe have a big cookout or whatever. So that's kind of the goal of this. Just, you know, life's too short. We all know each other. We've all had same experiences. Be nice to see each other in person than over a screen. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's been great watching these, and like I said before, putting a face to a name other than their picture when they were in school.
Yeah.
You know, so it's been great. And actually, this past year, my good friend from Heath had a son playing baseball, and he had played up at Ohio Wesleyan a few times during the summer. And I reached out to Coach Mott, and so we were trying to get him to go to Ohio Wesleyan, but he ended up going to that team in Springfield.
Yeah, we'll forgive him for that because he
I
might.
don't know.
Yeah, you never know.
Maybe in 4 years.
Hey, Steve, tell us a little bit about your family.
My family, like I said before, my wife, Shauna, I met her at Ohio Wesleyan in 95, and we got married in 99. Had our first kid in 2003 and our second kid in 2006. So we have a senior and a freshman this year. Trying to do the split session or, you know, hybrid model currently right now here in Circleville. So we're in Circleville, Ohio. You know, it's about an hour south of school down on 23. And I work about 2 miles from my house. So I've worked there for, this is the 18th year. It's a healthcare company. The guy started it in his garage, and it's grown to be, you know, over $100 million company. Just a privately held company, just selling medical supplies. So I'm actually I'm like materials manager of the company. So it's great to get to come home for lunch, get to see the family, have lunch with the kids. So life's going pretty well right now.
Yeah. Well, Scott was telling me that his daughter is down at Clemson University.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit before the call started, and that. So he's you know, we got to get him back on. I forgot to let him talk a little bit more about his family and everything, but you know, that's a good part of this is seeing what everybody's up to now and everybody with kids and everything. So it's
like you talked about before, the whole networking part of it, just outside of baseball. I know you talked about maybe even having just a specific show for that, and that's awesome, especially in times like this where, you know, some people might need some help.
Yep.
Right.
yeah,
And people reach out too if they need help.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we've got some. We've had some great people come through this program as well as many of the other programs at Ohio Wesleyan. And you know, my last 13 years, I got to see it in all the programs and you know, be involved in all of them. And you know, the first 22 was involved with baseball, and you know, I enjoy these every week. And I think you know, as you move forward, we'll start getting some of the younger guys on to see how they're doing with Tyler and catching up. But it's been great to catch up with you guys and everybody tonight. So I think we've hit that time. You know, I don't know if our Facebook Live worked tonight or not, John. I couldn't find it on the thing, but I do have it recorded.
I couldn't find it on my phone, so.
Okay, so it may not work tonight, but I do have the Zoom recording, so we'll put it up and guys can comment and things on that like we did that first week. So
Goody, we hit a record last week of like 105 views. So if it goes
Yeah.
way down this week,
It's Gavoni's fault.
we'll blame Scott for leaving early. Yeah.
just watch
Yeah.
it like 20 times on your own. They all count.
There it is.
All right, guys. Well, thanks everybody. And everybody have a good night. All right. Thanks, Steve.
All right.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you
Steve.
guys.
Appreciate it.